Gozer.
I thought Gozer was a man.
It's whatever it wants to be.
Gozer the Gozerian? Good evening. As a duly designated representative of the city, county, and state of New York, I order you to cease any and all supernatural activity and return forthwith to your place of origin or to the nearest convenient parallel dimension. That ought to do it. Thanks very much, Ray.
Are you a god?
No.
Then...
Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to cover Ezra Miller again, but it's going to be interesting. Today's video is all about spider gods, the apocalypse, and payoffs. The insanity that is Ezra Miller. So without further ado, let's get into it. This is from comicbookmovie.com. Now they are covering an article here that is from Vanity Fair. This is a very in-depth article that titled Ezra Miller's Messiah Delusions Inside the Flashed Star's Dark Spiral. And this is a must-read, in my opinion, if you want to know the extent of the craziness that surrounds this individual. But I wanted to cover the highlights, so let's cut back to the other article from comicbookmovie.com. The Flash latest Ezra Miller expose includes NDAs, meaning payoffs, alleged grooming, and reshoots on DC Comics movies, and more. The latest story about the Flash star Ezra Miller sheds new light on some of the more troubling allegations surrounding the actor and alleges that they're now paying off victims to keep them silent. That's what the NDAs are about. Vanity Fair has run another incredibly detailed and somewhat disturbing, no, it's not somewhat disturbing, it's extremely disturbing, story about Ezra Miller. And trust us when we tell you there's a lot to unpack. Yes, there definitely is. We'd highly recommend reading the entire piece for context, but it's sounding like the actor's recent promise to seek help may have been little more than damage control, particularly with the $200 million Flash movie hanging in the balance. Now, we knew that this was PR. I called this a long time ago. I said, look, he was given several choices, and in the end, he chose to preserve his movie and his acting career because it enables all his other behaviors. So was it anything more than PR? Absolutely not. Now, is he actually going to get help? Will this therapy that he's in be helpful for him? That is hard to say. We can't know for certain, but I do hope Ezra Miller actually gets some help and benefit out of the mental health treatment that he is currently seeking. Now, a source tells the site that Miller is currently undergoing therapy to get better. Now, that may sound like a step in the right direction, though there are conflicting claims about how seriously Ezra is taking this treatment. And that, of course, is concerning because, this person is, I don't know. I mean, in my opinion, this person is a threat to other people. Now, you will see it in this article. You will see the things that Ezra Miller has done to other people. And in my opinion, the problem stems from the fact that people indulge this individual because Ezra identifies as non-binary. Now he has this, aura around him, the non-binary protection. He's in the alphabet club. And instead of people actually supporting him, they indulge him. So what do I mean by that? Well, Ezra has been given free reign and definitely is unrestrained in the pleasure seeking and things like that. Ezra just does whatever the hell Ezra wants to do. And this is definitely a problem. The difference between indulgence and support is the difference in, having someone who knows what boundaries still exist, right? That their freedoms only extend to the point where they are beginning to harm or infringe on the freedoms of others. But Ezra doesn't understand that because Ezra Miller has been indulged and not supported. People mistake saying, oh, you're stunning and brave, and because you've identified as non-binary, we're going to let you do whatever you want. They mistake that for assistance or help. Now, throughout the piece, it's alleged that on the farm in Vermont, Miller frequently abuses those around and goes from referring to themselves as Jesus to the devil. Barry Allen has even been pulled into that, as Miller frequently claims that the Flash is the one who brings the multiverse together, just like Jesus. Okay, so this guy literally has a God complex where he thinks he's some kind of messiah. And this from the Vanity Fair article. While in Iceland, Miller was accompanied by Jasper Youngbear, a 55-year-old North Dakota medicine man the actor had hired as a spiritual advisor. Now, Youngbear seems to have stoked Miller's outsized vision, as Jasper was telling Ezra that he wasn't a part of the movement, he was the movement, that he was the next Messiah, and that the Freemasons were sending demons out to kill him. You see what I mean? People are indulging this kind of behavior, this kind of delusion, instead of basically saying, hey, this is not reality that you are involved in, and this guy is not good for you. You need to probably separate yourself from him, because the things that he is telling you are absolute lunacy. But no, people are supportive of anything that Ezra Miller wants to do, basically because he identifies as non-binary. It's thought that much of Ezra's behavior may be down to Ezra basically acting out after his parents decided to get divorced. But again, there are plenty of people whose parents get divorced and they don't end up completely losing it. Again, this is the difference between having friends who support you and having lackeys who indulge you. And, it's part of that issue of being famous and who you surround yourself with. You need to surround yourself with people who are going to tell you no every once in a while. But that is not what lackeys do. That's not what hired friends do. People you pay to be your friend aren't really your friend. Now here's where it truly goes off the deep end. Quote, Ezra is Jesus, and Takata is an apocalyptic Native American spider goddess, and their union is supposed to bring about the apocalypse. Was it just me, or is it perhaps that Ezra Miller has watched Ghostbusters one too many times while being completely high? And that's the real reason everyone is so opposed to them being together. Well, if that is the case, then I also would be opposed to them being together, but I don't believe that to be the case. I believe it just to be an extremely unhealthy relationship where Ezra is allegedly grooming this individual and should not be allowed to engage in these kinds of questionable activities with underage people. Now, Takata Iron Eyes is now an adult, but was not when all of this nonsense began. Now, Miller is alleged to have groomed a number of people, though is said to have a harem of young women in, quote, a patriarchal dictatorship where Ezra controls all the sex as the man and plays the women against each other, screams at them, belittles them in front of others. And this is what I'm talking about. This is where this leads to. Ezra Miller is abusive. He is mentally abusive to those around him, and that is a problem. People have indulged him to the point where he has a serious mental health issues, and he heaps serious amounts of mental abuse on others. And yes, this is an issue. We will touch on this a little bit later in this article about how this impacted other people. Now, those who know Miller believe Ezra Miller uses gender identity as a weapon. Yes, we've all seen this, with many also feeling that the aforementioned therapy sessions are just an example of the Justice League star playing the system. We saw this in Hawaii when Miller was basically being arrested for his disorderly behavior in a bar. And, the first thing he did was start to lash out and rely on his, non-binary transgender attributes, according to him, right? When one attempts to search Miller's pockets, they're talking about the police here, the actor says twice, rapid fire, "I'm transgender, non-binary. I don't want to be searched by a man." After being called sir, the actor responds, "That is an act of intentional bigotry and a technical hate crime." Miller's, who has, of course, they-them pronouns, registers objection to being unlawfully persecuted for a crime of no designation. Ezra then claims that to have a pre-existing nerve damage from police handcuffs, and claims, that this is a Yahtzee assault on him. And the police's response in this case was just perfect. One of the police officers just responds, "Hey, you should have told us that instead of running away, right? We could have taken care of this real quick, but you wanted to play the game. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes." And then this is what it all boils down to. Ezra Miller's rep said the notion that the Flash was at risk was a wake-up call for Miller, and Miller is now working with producers to shoot additional scenes for the movie. Many fans will be hoping those write the troubled star out of the DCE. Of course, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. One of the most unsettling claims, though, comes right at the very end of this article from Ezra Miller's former fiancée, Erin. While saying she never suffered any outright abuse, I think she's meaning physical abuse during their relationship, it was after they broke up that things turned dark. Now, she said, quote, "For years, he convinced me and all our friends that I was abusive. But looking back, I would be calling out his disrespect. And he wouldn't take responsibility, of course, and just called me abusive because of my reaction." And this is exactly what he was doing. He was turning this around and claiming to be the victim instead of actually what he was doing, which was victimizing others. And again, this is where the indulgence versus support comes in. When you indulge this kind of behavior, you end up with people who are spoiled and petulant and abusive. That's what you end up with. A spoiled child who doesn't know how to behave in a civilized society. That's exactly who Ezra Miller is. Ezra Miller's former fiancée continues, "I could have handled it better. I didn't know the term gaslighting back then. I was emotionally fucked up for years." That is what Ezra Miller did. That is who he is. That is what he has done. And that is the dangers of just telling someone they're stunning and brave automatically when they announce that they're non-binary, instead of someone even bothering to take the time to see if this person was actually all right. If this person who clearly had issues already was not going down some other path and needed mental health. Now, I'm not saying that all people who identify as non-binary have mental health issues, but I am saying in this case, it was used as a cover. It was used as an excuse to ignore obvious signs of mental health problems and abuse of other people. Ezra Miller is a dangerous person, in my opinion. Now, reading through the allegations in the main report, it's hard to come to any other conclusion beyond Miller being a very damaged individual who is causing harm to those around him. In the wake of that statement from Warner Brothers and the actor, the site reports that a lot of non-disclosure agreements are being signed, quote, in what three sources describe as a whack-a-mole style legal strategy of paying off victims. So there you have it. Spider gods and payoffs and non-disclosure agreements all surrounding Ezra Miller's God complex. This really should have never been allowed to happen, even when Ezra was in other countries. They just gave him the benefit of the doubt and allowed him to plead down to minor offenses and pay fines and get out of it. That's what happened in Iceland. That's what happened in Hawaii. He does this again and again and again. There's never any consequences. And now there's not going to be any consequences again because he's playing the system again. Act like he's doing what he needs to do, get his Flash movie out. But make no mistake, if he's not actually genuinely getting mental health treatment, he'll mess up again. This will happen again. And next time, he needs to be cut off for good. He needs to be canceled because he is a threat to other people unless he actually is getting proper treatment. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. In the meantime, if you want to continue to smash the narrative, then smash that like, share, and subscribe button. We are currently sitting at a little over 500 subscriptions for the channel. So if you want to help out a small channel, your subscription matters hugely for small channels. If you like what you see, give a little subscribe. But that's all I have for today. I will see you in the next video. Have a great day.